Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be sharing how to create a creature sound from scratch using recordings of various items in your house. This video also doubles as my submission for a creature sound design contest hosted by Paul Stoughton and his team at Penguin Grenade. So I want to first say a massive thank you for providing this opportunity. It was a ton of fun trying to create a creature with only my own recordings, and I really look forward to see what the sound design community has come up with as well. So to talk a little bit more about creature sound design, in my opinion, it's one of the hardest things to sound design for. There are two main reasons for this. The first is that it has to sound natural, like it's coming from some sort of organic creature. And because of that, I found that using various synthesis techniques tends to make it sound way too sci-fi. And what that also means is that you're also kind of limited in terms of processing, because if you throw too much plugins on something, it's going to sound sci-fi and it's not going to sound realistic and grounded anymore. So one of the biggest challenges when working on a creature is to try to find sounds that could work with very minimal processing. So that's why sound designers tend to use a lot of animal recordings when working on a creature, such as a tiger, whale, a lion, dolphin, or any type of bird. But in this case, I didn't have access to any animals, so I had to think of other ways to kind of get those similar sounds from stuff that you can find at home. And I also hope this is something that is helpful too, because I understand that not everyone has the luxury and resources to, rent out a private time slot in the zoo and record the animals' sounds there. Okay, let's get into it. First, I'm just gonna play what the final recordings sound like. This design was done without a video, but I did reference the Vanguard Demon from Demon Souls heavily. So when initially starting out, and I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't have any idea of what stuff I could use and what kind of materials yielded the best results. So I just recorded a bunch of stuff and hoped that some of that would stick. But something that I didn't know is that the entire concept of a creature roar is you're pushing air through some kind of medium. So I tried to do things that were similar to kind of mimic how those resonances in that interaction. So for example, one of the recordings I did was dragging a knife through a cardboard box, but it was through a very small hole. So you could hear the resonances that were happening inside the box. And finally, I also did a bunch of recordings of me making weird mouth noises into the microphone, because what's more organic than a recording of an actual human? All of these recordings were done with the Senken CO100 microphone. This is probably your best friend when working on a creature. The reason being, this microphone is a ultrasonic microphone, which means that it captures super high frequencies. And if you pitch stuff down, you're going to retain a lot of the definition and fidelity that would have been lost if you recorded it with a regular microphone. To talk a little bit about my thinking process really quick, I already had this visual reference in mind when I started. So I was thinking of things like, okay, if the monster was walking, you would hear like big footsteps. So what kind of stuff could I record for that? As well as he looks a little bit slimy too, like his skin looks a bit uneven with things. So I wanted to capture that part of his identity as well. And finally, I also wanted to capture some of the resonances that might happen in his big belly when he roars. So I was thinking a lot of guttural type sounds and what I could record to achieve a similar result. And the way I approach this creature is by recording various items into those big categories: Foley, guttural, me, die, tonal, and finally design. Basically what it is creating a bunch of design sounds as building blocks so then I can use later on. So first I'll talk about Foley. I recorded a balloon rub, a pillow smack, rubber glove, and slime. The balloon rub sounds like this. Yeah, I actually really hate this sound. Like, it gives me goosebumps, but you know, you gotta do it for the creature. And before getting to the stage, I already did one pass of cleaning of the recordings in RX. And to briefly demonstrate how I did that, you can open an external editor. I just have it on the menu bar. It's the same thing. You open it like this, and basically all of the yellow fuzzy stuff is kind of like the noise. What you want to do, or what I did, was select a bit of the noise, and this usually happens at the beginning or the end of the recording. You don't want to select any of the middle stuff, or at least I try not to, because it might have some like lingering resonance that you might inadvertently cut out. Yeah, so it looks like nothing's happening here. We hit spectral denoise, hit learn, so it learns the noise profile. You adjust these two faders using your ear, select everything, and hit render. And as you can see, it cleans out a lot of the noise, and the recording is a lot cleaner. So yeah, that's how we got here. So my thought process here was to make it sound less like a balloon, make a entire longer, more sustained whoosh bed, and then use snippets of that for the Foley, and then also make transients with Reactor 6 for some actual footstep impacts. So unfortunately, during this design process, I actually lost a session to making this file, and I tried to recreate it here with this plugin chain, but it's not exactly the same. But I am certain to get to this sound. It was various filters and a granular synth at the end. So this is my attempt at it. I don't have the exact recipe. There's also just some various like cleanup stuff, saturation, transient shaping, and neutral. But it's all like super minimal stuff. Yeah, and just a bit more of enforcer and transient shaping here to get it to really punch. To share a little bit more of where that was used, it was a lot of stuff in like the footsteps, right? But yeah, a lot of it is just this file kind of chopped up. Cool, so that's it for the balloon rub. For the pillow smack, this was super simple. I just wanted to get a hit sound. This is the raw recording. After a round of cleaning. And here's kind of what it sounds like at the end. I just wanted the transient, just a little bit of cleanup with the EQ, add some bass, inflator, radiator, Pro L, enforcer, sonic maximizer, even more enforcer, and some transient shaping. And this is just good because it's like a sweetener layer that you could be layered in to highlight certain moments in the design. Next we have the rubber glove. There's a little bit of talking in there, but that's okay because, you know, you're not using the entire file. It's just trying to find little gold nuggets here and there. Pretty simple processing. It's just mvocoder, ProQ3, and filter freak with some volume automation. The idea here was to create some sort of textural layer that could be used to highlight some of the throat movement of the creature. And this is just the same thing with a bit of cleanup. Where that was used in the design over here, like the build up, that's a rubber glove. Here we have some recordings of a slime that I bought from Amazon. The idea here was to make some whooshes and try to capture some of that slimy texture on the body that the creature might have. We have some compression, H3000, R-base, M ratio, oxidative inflator, and finally portal. So with the exception of portal, all of this is to enhance the file, add a bit more low end, and make it a bit louder. This is important because you want a healthy signal going into whatever creative plugin you throw on. Yeah, I actually ran this sound through various presets of Portal. That workflow would look something like this. And then use Global Sampler to bring that recording in, and just do that 3 more times with various Portal presets. Crystalline Ascent is another preset that I use. So this is kind of like what I came up with when I was working on it. So the hope is you got some interesting wishes out of this. Since there's 3 different source material feeding into it, I'm just gonna go straight to some of the results. And this is kind of where they ended up in the design. And another really cool happy accident that initially I wanted the slime to cover like the body slime, but in this case I've actually found that they're pretty good for like the saliva as well. In this roar, it kind of adds a bit more detail and realism to the creature. It kind of painted a picture of like the creature opening its mouth, roaring, and then you hear saliva dripping on the floor. So I thought that was something cool to share. In the final roar, there's also various layers of the slime wishes. Cool. Basically, all the Foley have been used with the balloon rub functioning as like a footstep slash Foley layer, pillow smack being like a transient sweetener, rubber glove being the build up to some of the roars, and finally the slime being the saliva as well as the slimy body Foley of the creature. Oh, I totally forgot to share where the pillow punch was used. It was mainly just used on some of the footsteps. Just gives it a bit more low end support. So cool, that's it for the Foley. Now on to the guttural movements. There are 4 main recordings where I tried to get this kind of effect. We have the knife scraping on the cardboard. We have me blowing into the plastic pipe, and recordings of a door creak, and also just me making weird mouth noises. So to go through the knife on cardboard, I wanted to get that clicking texture that you might hear in a lot of the creature sound designs in modern games. Do it through the Humanizer, which is a plugin by Crotos. What I think it's doing is a combination of pitch shifting, some granular synth stuff, and some delay. There's also some various presets here that also layers in an existing creature roar with what you feed into it. So that could lead to some happy accidents as well. And here are some other plugins to boost some of the transients, some cleanup EQ stuff, and more cleanup. So now I threw it through some more M ratio to get rid of some of the noise. A lot of this kind of textural sound was used when I worked on somewhat just designed sounds, and this is basically similar in philosophy to the designed libraries from Boom or Soundmore for whatever commercial libraries that's out there. Here. With these design files, I then like to pull them into the main monster session, just so it's a little bit more inspiring, because I found that building up layers from scratch sometimes is not the most inspiring, especially if you don't know what you want. So stuff like this has helped a lot with. So going back to more guttural stuff, this is a recording of me blowing into the pipe very, very close to the microphone. And the idea here is I want to try to capture what it might sound like if you put a microphone down a creature's throat and you can hear all of the resonance in the throat as well as the details of the breath. And then I pitch it down a whole lot. added a transient with enforcer to try to beef it up a little bit. And I used that. That's the plastic pipe. And as you may have noticed, like not all of these sounds have been used to the same extent, but it's always good to have more source material than you can work with than less. Here we have a door creak sound. Yeah, I really like the clicking stuff. I feel like that could be cool for some of the throat movements. And it's pitched down by a whole lot. This is fed through speakerphone. The idea is to artificially add back in some of the resonance of various spaces. And this is actually a technique that I learned from Ash Reed from Sony PlayStation. He used this technique a lot on some of Returnal's creatures, and I thought that game sounded amazing, so wanted to try it out for myself. Here's what it sounds like with the speakerphone. Next, we have some filtering. And finally, some entropy EQ, clean up some of the noise. And this sound was door creak. And it's just pitched down a bit more with some cleanup. There's another part that's also used. Yeah, that's it for that. Here we have just me making weird mouth sounds into the microphone. I'm gonna skip some of that, it's a little embarrassing. But basically, because this is recorded in 192 32-bit flow with the second microphone, you're able to pitch it down a whole lot and still retain a lot of the fidelity. So, as you can see, that's pretty amazing. You're already there. You don't have to do additional processing. I actually used that recording quite a bit in a lot of the build-ups. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I remember when I was doing this, I was actually surprised about how little it took to get it to sound so good. So I just did a bunch of other recordings of me making weird mouth sounds to try to get more source material. Again, same thing, I just pitched it down. Here, some light processing with shade, transgressor, soothe, and GoFus, and sonic maximizer. I don't think I actually used this sound a whole lot. Let's see. So there's this one. Where is it? Here. Yeah, I really like the clicky stuff, and I just put a lot of that in the start and the end of various Creature Wars. There's also various other recordings here. I just pitch down as well. This was just that recording pitch down. And I really like the resonance that was kind of built into the sound. I used that stuff like there. There's just a bit over here in context. Oh, I totally forgot to mention this file is also used here. I think it's just pitched up a little bit. Again, just weird mouth noises, and you pitch it down. And this is actually a welcome surprise. I actually used this part over here. I think this is just pitched down even more with a bit of sonic maximizer. This is the same file, just pitched up 12 semitones because I want this to cut in the mix. So I thought that adding another layer with higher frequency could help. So yeah, I guess the lesson here is that you're actually capable with a lot of stuff with just your mouth and your voice. So try to take advantage of that as much as you can. Next, we have some of the tonal stuff that I recorded. So yeah, with creature roars, there's usually one layer that kind of sticks out that allows us as a listener to identify it as one creature as opposed to many different creatures. Maybe with some examples, it could be more clear. So this is a recording of the scraping fork. If I take that out, this one sounds like. Versus if I put it back in. Yeah, I guess the best way to say it is one layer that grounds the entire sound and really makes a roar feel like a roar. Another example, I guess. So yeah. This is the recording of my shower. It's pretty cool because I notice every time you turn the shower on, there's like a short middle squeak. Yeah, it's really just this part that I wanted, so I think I cleaned it with some M ratio and some RX. And tried to beef that up with some of the plugins. This is just this sound but pitched down. Some intense M ratio, some limiting, sonic maximizer, and tremolator to give it a bit more movement. I think I used that here. And yeah, so that's the shower squeak. So another recording that I did was scraping my fork on a pan. I tried to capture some organic movement in the tonality and felt like this was a source that could get close to that. Through Unveil, it just cleans out some of the reverb. Then I did the usual thing and pitched everything down by a lot. Here it's just beefing up a little bit. And finally, M ratio to get rid of the noise. Yeah, because you really don't know what exactly will be used, so it's always good to process a bunch of stuff so you have many options to choose from. That recording is actually used quite a lot. So we have one here with some more denoising, saturation, EQ and compression, as well as some more pitch shifting. Some more here. And here as well. I just also drew in the volume envelope here with some Z noise to clean out a lot of noise. And finally over here, which has a lot of saturation. So yeah, that's kind of basically all of the source material that I've recorded and processed. Render that all into this one big folder. So then I can kind of pull from. I made some designed source material as well so that I have more material to work with. Yeah, so I did 4 main design sounds. These are kind of like what they sound like. And so yeah, to walk through each of them really quickly. The first one is a spider monster, so it was just a bunch of layers of, you know, fork and pan, this, a little rub, a rubber glove, I mean some slime washers, some more, and here as well. I just also drew in the volume envelope here with some Z noise to clean out a lot of noise. And finally, over here, which has a lot of saturation. Yeah, because you really don't know what exactly will be used, so it's always good to process a bunch of stuff so you have many options to choose from. That recording is actually used quite a lot. So we have one here with some more denoising, saturation, EQ and compression, as well as some more pitch shifting. door creak, nice little boards. And this is one of the mouth gargle sounds that I shared earlier. So yeah, as you notice, there are some like muted tracks. What I like to do with this kind of stuff is create different variations by muting various layers. So say that maybe I want a variation of this without all of the tonal elements, then I would mute. And hence that is why you see those various like files that look the same, but they all have like subtle differences. You know, you might be asking, how long did it take me to make all of these different variations? I actually did this super quickly using a tool by LKC. So this is called the LKC variator, and it allows you to randomize various media item properties super quickly with one click of a button. So how that works is highlight the items, hit mutate, and it's going to give you a different sound. Versus. And, you know, is it always going to create something that is best quality, the best variation you can look for? Probably not, but you still have to do a little bit of tweaking, but at least it's a really quick way to run into happy accidents and inspiration. This is just layered the rubber glove, the vocoder, do some speakerphone as well, and a recording of me growling into the mic. Here we have same thing basically. Finally, this is using various different source material that we have. So orchid band, me dying, pipe, more fucking pan. Actually, this file is just this file, but I used it here. So now that we've kind of gone over all of the source material and how all of them were created, I want to talk a little bit more about the design itself. So for this contest, we have to make a creature sound design in less than 30 seconds. So it gives us a little bit of time to try to tell a little bit of a story. The story that I imagined was there's a big creature in the distance. You're hiding behind a rock or like some bushes or whatever. It slowly walks towards you because it senses you. It gets really close to you, but doesn't see you. So it lets out a really big scream because it's annoyed. He looks around to see if you're nearby. He does not see you. He's super angry. He lets out another scream and then he walks away. Yeah, I just layered a balloon rub piercing as well as me growling. So here the monster kind of turns around, notices you, senses you, and therefore there's two different footsteps, as well as a really high tonal element to differentiate from the sound before. This is kind of trying to cover the monster when it stands in place. Some slime layers, super subtle blowing pipe layer, some growling layer, and the fourth in pan. And this is where the monster gets closer to you. And there's various like metal resonances. I also did some panning with some of these mix groups so that you can get a better feel of the spatialization of the monster. And this is where it kind of gets really close and he lets out a really big roar. So I wanted the intensity to be saved for this moment. The build up, it's my voice, rubber glove, and me growling. So now onto like the main roar itself. So one of the challenges is that you need to keep it interesting throughout the entire duration of the roar. I found the best way to do that is to weave layers in and out. In this example, the start you have transient sounds. And then you have this metal mixed with organic physicality. So all together so far. Sounds like this. Which is cool, but the thing so far is that it doesn't sound real. So I chose to add a little bit of human element to the tail over here to kind of ground the sound. And it does a really funny thing where because you hear the human sound at the end, it almost tricks your brain to think that the stuff from the front is also human. And obviously in the tail, there's a little bit of ear candy stuff. and some gurgling. And I think these mouth movements add a lot because they kind of mimic what the tongue might sound like after a roar. And after the main roar, in this part, I imagine the monster to be super close to you, and therefore you can hear all the little details of throat, the saliva, and all the guttural stuff. So. Oh, and his breathing as well. I think this recording, me inhale, I didn't mention this earlier in the source material section, but this is literally just a recording of me breathing into the mic. Just pitch down, and as you can see, there's even a plosive in there that I was probably too lazy to remove. There's a bit of metal squeaks in there. This was the designed large scream that I used. It's also pitched down. So for the final roar, it's the similar principle to the roar earlier, but the challenge here was to try to make it sound different. For the build up, there's like similar sources, you know, with the balloon stuff, the rubber glove stuff, and some of my own voice. I thought that one of the main areas that I can make this different is by switching up the transient. So as you notice here, I actually didn't use the balloon rub for the transient. This is actually the rubber glove. And it also works quite well as the transient layer. And this is the large scream designed with some filter freak and transient shaping. So together, it gives it a pretty good punch. I wanted the main differentiating element here to be the tonal stuff. So instead of using a recording of my voice, I tried to lean into the fork, scrape, and metal pan to try to get something a little more different and try to ground the sound into the same creature using similar elements in the tail. The low growl design and also some various guttural clicking. So yeah, I guess the TLDR of this part was a rubber glove vocoder at the start. You have metal scrape coupled with guttural stuff, the main roar, and then finally the more human voices at the end. Now, how did it turn out at the end? Who knows? But that's all the time that I had to do. So to go over the entire creature roar. So yeah, this was my attempt of creating a creature that might look something like this. Yeah, I learned a lot when building his entire palette out because this was the first time I worked on a creature sound without using any libraries at all. Again, thank you Paul Stoughton and the Penguin Grenade team for providing this opportunity. But yeah, I hope you guys learned something from it. Thanks for watching till the end. And I really look forward to checking out all the cool stuff that the entire sound design community has come up with. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll catch you in the next one.